All right, YouTube, thicc here. Got another cool knife today. This is one of my personal favorites to carry. It's also about the thickest one that I actually enjoy carrying on a regular basis, and that's the Handyman. The Handyman has a pretty long history. Going back to the 50s, they introduced the first Handyman model, which was actually a German model called the Handwerker. But it was essentially a Ranger, but instead of having a pen blade, it had a technician screwdriver in this position. Other than that, all the tools were the same. 5-layer configuration. It's a 7236 MAU, which gives you a 7 is for the technician's screwdriver. 236 is the configuration of a huntsman. So you have a Sparkman plus scissors plus saw. And then the M is for the metal file. A is for scale tools. And a U, it would be of a bale. If it didn't have a U, then it wouldn't have a bale. Then in 1973, they made a bunch of changes. 1973 was a big year because it was the year they came out with the magnifier on the Champion, and the Champion C was released. And then basically the Champion B basically morphed into the Handyman. Now this isn't the same Handyman. The original Handyman from 1973, they did not have pliers until 1987, so they had the fish scaler instead of the pliers. So then in 1987, they added the pliers, and we finally get to the knife I'm going to talk about today, my Handyman. And this is a Handyman Plus version. Has the plus scales with the pen, the translucent green emerald scales. They're beautiful. So your Handyman has the opening layer, the 90-degree stop on the bottle opener screwdriver, can opener with the small flathead and Phillips tip. Then your next layer is the pliers. On the older Handyman, it would have been the scissors, but this one is the pliers. It has the crimping part here. Then we have the scissors. If I can get them out, I just trimmed my nails because I broke my nails last week working with a knife that was really hard to open. So I had to cut my nail down, and now it's hard to get everything open as anymore. So got our 91mm scissors. And these have a rivet. These are later ones. Earlier ones have a screw in the pivot. And the next layer is the saw. And again, if this was the older one before 1986, you would have a fish scaler instead of the pliers. And the fish scaler and saw would be paired up in the same layer. Or not really the same layer, but they don't have a spacer between them. The next tool is the metal file with the metal saw on the edge. Actually does work pretty good. I mean, it's not ideal. It's not as great as a hacksaw, but if you're working, as long as you're not working with super hardened steel, it'll cut through it. Then the pen blade. It's a pen blade. Nothing to write home about, but it's nice to have. Nice to have a beater blade so you don't beat up on your main blade. You want to use that for cutting open junk all the time, and then have this nice and sharp. It's a good way to go. Main blade. The 4-line tang stamp. Victorinox. Or no, this is a 3-line. So this is the later tang stamp. I believe this is after 2005. Either after 2005 or 2008, but it no longer has rust-free. It just has Victorinox Swiss-made stainless. And on the back, there's no crossbow, just officier Swiss. Pretty sure it's 2005. Then on to the back tools. First off, the ever-popular corkscrew. And you know, it's not a Swiss Army knife if it doesn't have a corkscrew. That's not true, but you know, somebody will get mad about it, so I love it. We have the little hole for the pin here. That's a neat thing to have, you know, not a deal breaker for me, but I like having it. You know, the little mini screwdriver. And this one, I have no idea why I've mixed these up so many times, but this is an older mini screwdriver. By this time, the mini screwdrivers were hex shaped, and this is a round one, so this is from one of my earlier Swiss champs or something like that. The next layer, yeah, with my short thumbnails, I can't get it. Can't get it. Got the wood chisel. I personally have never used the wood chisel. Just haven't had a need to use it. I've had some people tell me that do apparently use chisels, say that the location of it being this far up on the knife makes it kind of hard to use. I don't know about that. I don't know if you can't use it this way for some reason, because like I said, I'm not like a highly wood carving person, so I have no idea, you know, the proper use of a chisel and which direction the chisel grind is meant to be in. Wow, my fingers are really bad today. There we go. The fine screwdriver, as they call it. And the older ones, I don't know if this one has one on it or not. I think this one does. Yeah, we do. You'll see this was what their older fine screwdriver looked like. Not so much of a fine screwdriver, more of a medium screwdriver, if anything. But that's on a Ranger. But the older ones would have had that thicker, stubbier screwdriver like that. This is the modern screwdriver. It's got this little bump here that just bumps it up to make it easier to grab the nail nick. And the hook. You know, everybody loves the hook. I mean, the hook is absolutely essential. How would you ever survive without the hook? Best tool they ever made. Clearly the best tool Victorinox ever made, invented, is the hook. If they could figure out how to put it on every one of their knives, that would just be fantastic. I am all hook all the way. Let's go hooks. And then the reamer. Reamer, meh. You know, I use them once in a while. It's not like a go-to tool. Sometimes you'll notice some of my videos, I forget to even point out the reamer, you know, which I do feel bad. The reamer deserves more of my respect than that, you know, not even get a shout out when I'm pulling out all the tools. So shout out to the reamer. And this one's for all the reamers I've forgotten. And of course I skip these usually too, but somebody said they want me to show all the tools. So show all the tools, no matter how repetitive they are. And here's the beloved tweezers. You know, they're okay. They're not the greatest tweezers, but they're better than nothing tweezers. The toothpick. Maybe twice I've used a toothpick as an actual toothpick. The main thing I've used them for is for actually getting gunk out of the inside of knives. And the pen. The pen's actually write pretty good. And if you're familiar with Felix Imler, he shows everybody a trick where you pull the hook up. Another reason why the hook is essential. And you'll notice that pen's head fits perfectly in that groove. And you lock that hook down, and then you can write with that pen like that. And it actually does work very well. Here. You know, so that makes it a lot easier than trying to write with just that tiny pen. Although if you're just signing your name, you can get it done, you know. So that is my thoughts on the Handyman. This is the I do carry the Swiss champ. You know, if you look at, I forgot the Swiss champ because, you know, you've got an 8-layer knife versus a 6-layer knife, and the Swiss champ is totally comfortable for me to use. There's plenty of people that say they're too thick, but then they have no problem using a Leatherman or something, which is roughly the same dimensions. So I don't get that at all. The Handyman, I think, is a great size. You know, I think it's a great compromise. Yeah, I think it gives you as many tools as you need, but in a size that's still manageable. You know, once you start to get bigger than the Swiss Champ, like into the Swiss Champ XLT, I can see maybe using anything above that is just crazy. The Swiss Champ XAVT, you know, they, you know, designed as a collectible. Urs Weiss even says it himself, that they, Urs Weiss or whatever his name is, you know, says it was designed to be collectible. Hence the collectible price tag of $400. And yeah, it once the width starts to approach matching the length, it's getting a little ridiculous. You know, there's got to be a quotient there. You know, I think it's probably half of the length. Once the width exceeds more than half of the length, then it's going way too far. Way too far. Doesn't matter how many tools are in there if it's just a cluster F to use. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. thicc out.